Hello everyone and welcome on back into the Barretts. Today, I am bringing you something I am super excited to make. A guide on a class that I have loved since I started playing all the way back in Heavensward. Astrologian has been my favorite healer and probably one of my favorite classes to play to this date. Dancer was close second, and so was Red Mage, but Astro has always been near and dear to my heart. I have been playing MMOs for, I think, since I've been since high school. Especially more since I've been out of high school. So since like 2014, 2013 to like now. So many years of MMOs. Started in WoW. Don't like WoW anymore. If anyone has seen my other videos on this channel, I don't like WoW anymore. Point blank, period. But Final Fantasy XIV has been my favorite game to play for so long. And when I started in Heavensward, I saw this weapon. Well, not this one specifically, but I saw the Astro globes and I saw the whole card thing. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and I had to play it. So, I leveled my way through Summoner, I got to Heavensward, and the first thing I did was level Astro. So, I've played all iterations of Astro when it originally started in Heavensward, when it changed a little bit in Stormblood, when it drastically changed in Shadowbringers, and to where it is in Endwalker. So, in this guide, I'm going to be leaving timestamps of each little part. You can skip to whichever part you want. We're going to be going over the abilities. That's the first thing we're going to do. And then we're going to do a dungeon with it. And I will show you how I play Astro in a dungeon setting. The way I play Astro between a dungeon and a raid setting is drastically different. But, for right now, I want to show you guys how I play Astro in a dungeon setting, and I will show you when the Savage tiers come out, how I play it in raids. And then at the very end, we'll have like an overall thoughts and impressions of how Astro seems to be in Endwalker. And yeah, let's just jump into the abilities, shall we? So, Astro plays fundamentally just like every other healing class, right? You have your basic heals, your basic AoE heals, and then you have your kit, which is different between each healer. So, there are things that Astro has that maybe White Mage doesn't have. Astro, as of Endwalker, is a pure healing class. Well, what does that mean? Pretty much, this class is pure healing. It does not have shields, it doesn't work with shields. We have one whole ability that we have about 2 abilities that put on an actual shield, but it's not as powerful as Sage or Scholar shields. They are considered a shield healer. We are not. Endwalker, they changed it. They finally changed it to where we have 2 distinct categories of healers. You have your shield and your pure healers. Your pure healers are White Mage and Astro, which is good, because Astro was like in between. And then now we have the shield healers, which are Sage and Scholar. So, fundamentally, everything works the same. You have your basic heals, your AoE heals, and then your whole kit. So, what are my basic heals? Your basic heals are Benefit 1 and 2. Benefit 1 is your lesser potency heal, it's your tier 1. It's your basic heal, you always have it. It's just cheap mana and also low potency. Then you have Benefit 2, which is a little bit higher potency, costs more mana, and it's more stronger than tier 1. Then we have Aspected Benefit, which is your regen ability. Put this on your tanks, put this on someone who does a little bit of spot healing. Doesn't have to be just tanks. It can be anybody who needs just that itty little bit more of a tick. That's our regen ability. That's instant. It's our dot. It's always our dot. Always uses when you're on a taint. But do not use aspected benefit when a taint is pulling trash mobs. Trash mobs will then aggro to you instead of the taint, and you're gonna take a lot of damage. And it's not fun because taint usually zooms and doesn't even realize that he even lost aggro. So don't use aspected benefit when a taint is pulling a lot of trash mobs. Then we have our oh shit button, which is Essential Dignity. It's our instant cast, pretty good potency, and with Endwalker, we got 2 charges of it. Or maybe that was Shadowbringers. I think it was Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers, they gave 2 charges of Essential Dignity, which is fantastic. It's needed. Either for you, or when the tank, or when you have someone who stood in mechanics and you need to pop them quickly because there's an AoE damage ability coming up right next. This is your oh shit button. Use it when you can. I use this all the time. It's wonderful. Don't be afraid to pop it. It'll have its charges back in no time. Always use it whenever you need it. We have Asuna, which pretty much you cure any effect that has a little blue line on the hotbar. You'll see a blue line on the hotbar. That can be Asuna. Use it. Do not be afraid to use it. Then we have our basic AoE heal, which is Helios. It's just your normal AoE heal, not the most powerful potency, cheap to use, and no other additional abilities are applied to the party when you use Helios. Then we have Aspected Helios. This is an AoE heal. It will put buffs on the party. It's like Mech 2. Will put regen on anybody who is near you and in the range of Aspected Helios when you cast it. It's a little bit more higher potency. And, well, it's less potency, but it has, overall, it's probably better to use because of the regen ability over Helios, but either one will work. And then it also has an added effect when you have neutral sect on, which we will get to later. Now, it's time for the cards. Your main kit that separates you from all of the other healers. Your cards. Now, the cards have gone through drastic changes ever since they were first implemented in Heavensward. It seems like almost every expansion, something changes with the cards. But I think this one is the best iteration of them all. So, back in the wee day, the cards used to give stat bonuses. Some would be for crit, some would be for for crit, for spell speed, for skill speed, flat damage, of course, for the balance. Another one would be the bowl used to give extra vitality and defense for tanks. The Ur used to give mana back. The Spire used to give TP back. They even still have the old TP still on the Spire, and same with this. But now, that changed back in Shadowbringers, or was it Stormblood? One of those 2 expansions, I think it was Shadowbringers. They changed it to where all of the cards just gave you flat DPS increase. So, and in Shadowbringers, it was a flat 6%. Now they've changed it. So now, the cards give a DPS increase for certain classes for certain cards. So, for an example, when you see this outline on your Astro gauge, purple is a border for caster and ranged DPS. So your bards, your dancers, your summoners, your red mages, your black mages, this is what's going to benefit them the most and will give them 6% DPS increase. Now you can use this on a melee or a tank or what have you, but it'll only give them a 3% buff. So you're not always going to have a melee and a ranged, or vice versa. You may have double ranged. You may have double melee. Especially right now, you're gonna have a lot of double melee. You can put this on a melee character. It's just it won't give them that 6% damage. To be optimal, you want to optimize your cards. Now, that's what you have redraw for. Whenever you say, this isn't for what my party needs, let me try it again. Now, unfortunately, I got another one for ranged, and that happens. By the time I use redraw and it gives me another ranged one or another sign I don't want, I'm just gonna use it anyway. Or if I really don't want it, I'll just undraw it. If I feel like it's not worth it, I'll just undraw it. But most of the time, I won't, because it still is useful. It's still 3%. It's not 6% for that class, but it's still something. So I would still say use that card even if it's not from the desired class that you have in your party. In a raid setting, you'll have plenty to choose from. But in a dungeon setting, it's just, you might as well just use it. So now I got a blue one. This is for melee DPS. So you always want to indicate, if you can't remember it, but in your head, like from reading it, the color is what I go by. Blue, melee, purple, ranged. That's how I do it. And tanks. Blue, melee, and tanks. Ranged, caster, and healers. And bards. Physical ranged. Any ranged class. That's how you can deviate between the two. So, the ones that do have, that is not the right one. The ones that do have, specifically for melee and ranged, the specific melee cards are balance, spear, and arrow. The ones for ranged are the bowl, the ewer, and the spire. Pretty much the first three, melee, last three, ranged. It kind of worked that way anyway, because back in the day, these three were favored for melee classes. These three were favored for range, well, the bowls are tanks, so. But that's your basic cards that you have to keep drawing. And with this expansion, they changed it to where you have 2 charges, which is great, because when you're in a dungeon, you can have one card for one DPS and one card for the other, and you don't have to play favorites. So I like this change the most, and it also encourages, as the player, as the Astro, I used to just give the card to the highest DPS, and I would only give them tarts. But now, with this new system, it encourages me to not only give it to one person, but to the other person that's playing ranged. Maybe that melee is just doing a little bit more damage than the ranged is. Well, now you can have ability to give it to both of them, because now you have 3 cards that are specific for melee, and 3 cards that are specific for ranged and casters. I like this. It's fair. Astros don't have to play favorites anymore. And I'm sure people will be more happier about it. So, now for the other types of cards that we have also, when you play crown play, we have an option to draw we have a 50-50 shot of drawing either Lord of Crowns or Lady of Crowns. Now, back in Stormplay, when they were first introduced, they did the same thing. Lady of Crowns restored HP, Lord of Crowns did damage. But then, in Shadowburners, they changed it to where, while all the cards gave a flat 6% damage increase, the Lord and Lady of Crowns gave an 8% increase. Well, they changed it back. I don't know how I feel about it, because it was kind of nice when I was waiting for a proc for divination, which they did change divination. When I was waiting for a proc, I could give out a Lord or Lady of Crowns in the meantime. Like, say I got the perfect proc that I wanted, the great divination that I wanted, I would give out an 8% DPS increase while I was waiting for Divination to come back off of proc. So that's what I did in the meantime, but now they changed it back, and it's okay, but I still would have liked that 8% increase. The extra healing and extra damage is nice, don't get me wrong, and it does have its moments where I do need it, especially Lady of Crowns, but it is what it is. So basically, you pop it, Lord of Crowns will do damage to anything around you, and Lady of Crowns will heal anything around you, so go right in, and I use it all the time, it's great. Great little boost to healing. Now, we have Divination. Divination has changed since Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers, it was on a proc based. So once you have 3 of your signs, which would go into signs, it would proc and you'd be able to use it. And that gave a certain amount of DPS. I think it was about 3 or 6 or 8%, back in Shadowbringers. Now they've changed it. Now Divination's on a 120-second recast time, and it just gives a flat 6%. This does not need to be there to have this proc. But what it does proc, is Astrodyne. Astrodyne is what your 3 signs now proc instead of Divination. Pretty much what this does is when you're playing the matching game, when you're drawing your cards, you have signs. The bull gives the solar sign. So does the balance. The spear gives the celestial sign. It's the moon. Same with the spire. They give the celestial sign. And then the arrow and the uber give the lunar sign. You want to play a matching game. Right here is when you will see when you play it. I'm not in combat, so I can't show you. But that is part of your Astro gauge. It not only tracks what card you have, what it is, and your Lord or Lady of Crowns, but it also tracks your 3 signs. And you need to play a matching game. You either put all 3 for one Astrodyne, which would be Harmony of Spirit. Harmony of Spirit is probably the weakest one. It's still nice in certain settings, but it's not your ultimate goal. It only really just restores MP gradually over time. It's nice, don't get me wrong, but you do not want to just focus on getting all 3 of the same sign. If it happens, it happens. But in my experience, it is very rare that I get 3 of one sign. Very rare. I've maybe gotten it twice in one done in from leveling from 80 to 90. I maybe got it twice. The more common one is the 2 sign types, where you get Harmony of Spirit and Harmony of Body. Harmony of Body reduces the recast time for your spells. And it also reduces the spell cast time as well. The auto attack delay, you don't really have to worry about, but the reduction in spell cast and recast time is really nice. But if you match 2 signs, so say I get 2 solar signs and then a lunar sign, I will get Harmony of Spirit and Harmony of Body. Not bad. It's more common, but it's not a bad thing. I don't mind it. But the main one you always want to go for is one of each type. You want to try to get one of each type. It's not always gonna happen. You may have to undraw some cards if you really want to be that optimal. For me, I try and be that optimal, but sometimes RNG is not my luck. This is still RNG based. I may undraw my solar sign and get another solar sign, redraw that same card, and still get a solar sign. That can happen. It can happen. RNG is a bitch. And this class is RNG based. So, it's gonna happen. But when you do get one of each sign type, it feels amazing. And you get 3 different harmonies. You get not only Harmony of Spirit, which regens your mana. You get Harmony of Body, which reduces spell cast and recast time. but you also get Harmony of Mind, which increases the damage dealt and your healing potency by a whole 5%, which is ridiculous. It can really, you feel it. Whenever I get all three, I feel that extra 5% whenever I do healing. My benefit to a tank might only do it this much, but when I have the 5%, it does a whole chunk of their health bar. It's great. And then imagine if you crit that, it'll fill their whole entire bar back to full with just one benefit too. It's amazing. That is your ultimate goal when you're drawing your cards. Not only to help your party members, but to also help yourself. And I think that's an amazing thing, because now it's not like, well, I'm just casting these cards, but what do I get out of it, you know? Not only do you get the appreciation of your party members, but you also get something for yourself. And it's great. That is your ultimate goal. You want to get one of each side when you're drawing your cards. It may not always happen, but that is your ultimate goal. And that is your card system. It's not too hard, it's not too complicated, and it's a lot more simplified than what it was originally back in Heaven's Ward. I prefer this over even Shadowbringers, because I really like that effect from Astrodyne. I truly do. I really like it. So, back to our abilities. So now, overall, besides the changes to Astrodyne Divination, or the addition of Astrodyne, we only got, in terms of leveling abilities, we only truly got 2 new abilities. But overall, we have 4 new abilities in Endwalker. Fall Malefic, which is pretty much your upgraded Malefic. It's your upgraded single DPS spell. We have Gravity 2, which is your upgraded Gravity from what we've had for a while. This Gravity 2 does more damage, and it's your AoE damage ability. That's what Gravity 2 is. And of course, we have Combust 3. That didn't change this expansion, but it's still your dot. It is your DPS dot, pretty much. And then the other ones that I'm excited about is we have Exaltation. When I got this ability, I was really, really excited for it because I read it and I was like, oh shit. Pretty much what it does is that it reduces the damage taken by the target by 10%, which is nice. And it also restores HP at the end of the duration. So at the end of 8 seconds, you have a cure potency and damage reduction on whoever you put it on. I put it on the tank slot, or somebody who's like hit a stat marker or something. That's what I put it on. And it's a great ability. It's a set it and it heals over time, and it's fantastic. I like it. Sometimes you can't really tell the damage reduction, but sometimes you really, really can because it makes them so. I'm in a dungeon, I pop Exaltation on the tank, he pulls, and he might take a little bit less damage than what he was originally going to take after he gets done pulling all the mobs. And it's restoring HP on him, so I can weave in a little bit of DPS while I'm at it. The other new ability that you get 90 is Macrocosmos. What this does, it's like an earthly star, but an instant cast. And it does a little bit extra for you. So, over the span of when you cast it, when you get dealt damage, up to 50% along with its original potency, it's not only restoring the HP, plus the compiled damage when you had it on your party members, whatever damage they took, it heals them for it. So say, for example, you're in a dungeon and you have a stat mechanic coming, and you know it's coming. You pop Macrocosmosis before it comes, and then you either hold on to it for that extra little bit of damage they might take from something else, and then you pop Macrocosmosis. Either you let it run out or you pop it yourself, and it restores not only the damage they took, but also an extra 200 potency. And I think that's phenomenal for an instant cast. I am still trying to time this right in dungeons, but when I'm doing trials, it worked amazing. Once you learn the timing of the bosses, this ability can be used so well, and I love it. Absolutely love this ability and this addition to our kit. It's great. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you learn the timing of bosses, it'll be so easy to figure out, alright, this is when I use Macrocosmosis. Don't be afraid to play around with it either, because I'm still playing around with it. I'm still learning the timings of the bosses. When does the AoE come? When does the stack material come? When does any of this come? I'm still learning that second nature of like, alright, this is coming up. Here we go. Macrocosmosis. Alright. Let's use it. It's gonna take time to learn, but play around with it. Don't be hesitant to play around with a new ability that you may not understand at first. That's what you have to do to figure it out. And as a healer, that's what we have to do to figure it out. We gotta learn when this is appropriate to use and how to use it. But that is how I've used it. I'm not perfect at using this ability, but I understand it to where I can figure it out, and I just need to put it into play at the right moments. Speaking of right moments, Earthly Star, my other favorite ability, and what this is kind of like. So, we have a big change in Endwalker to this amazing ability, which is Earthly Star. Pretty much what this does is that when you cast it, it's gonna be a little bit of an Earthly Star. That's what it's normally called. That's what its basic ability is. But when you let it keep ticking, because it doesn't automatically go off, when you set it down and you keep ticking it, it'll turn into Earthly Dominance, which heals for so much more than the basic Earthly Star. And the biggest change that we've gotten to Endwalker, and the best change that Astros have gotten to Endwalker, is the change to the amount of range our Earthly Star covers. Where you see that little that first outer circle around the inn, that was how it was originally. That was how big it was. It didn't cover much. So people could easily run out of it, and you're damn straight they did that. So many times I could not tell you how pissed I was when people would do that. They didn't know how they would do that. Sometimes they did it intentionally, it would feel like, but sometimes they truly didn't know, they didn't see it, whatever. Now, it's there. And it's around this entire room, and in most areas, it's around the entire dungeon boss area. And this is what I mean by it goes to the giant dominance. It gets more cure potency, and it is just an instant heal that can heal you for a lot. And sometimes it'll heal pretty much half of your health bar in one go. And it's a wonderful ability that I will always use. Once you time it right, it works like a charm. And sometimes you can set it and forget it. Other times you want to time it to where you want to heal it at a moment where it's just like, oh shit, I need this right now. For example, when I'm in a dungeon and the tanks are pulling a shit ton of mobs, I put this when I know that they have stopped, they pulled everything they can, and they are stuck in one spot. I put this down. That way I can weave in DPS knowing that I don't have to stop unless to activate it. I don't have to stop to heal them. I can just pop Earthly Star and go back to gravity, or put a shield on them, or what have you may be, so I can get back into waving and DPS. And that's how I usually use Earthly Star. Bosses, whenever a weak camp mechanic is coming up, a stat mechanic is coming up, whatever the case may be, that is when I use Earthly Star. Same thing with Trials. Whenever there's an AoE mechanic coming, a stat marker, or wow, we're getting fucked by a mechanic, that is when I use Earthly Star, and that is when, especially when I pop it, when it's in Earthly Dominance. You have to wait until it's after in Earthly Dominance to pop your star. Otherwise, if you use it with just normal Earthly Star, it won't heal as much. It's a good amount of healing by itself, but it's just not as much. I always wait until Earthly Dominance. Always. The other two abilities that we have is Celestial Opposition. Pretty much, it's your Aspected Helios with a regen ability and it's instant cast. You can run around and you don't even have to cast it. It's instant and it just pops a regen on you. It's a nice little bit of healing, and it's nice when you really, really need it. I use it a lot. It's a great ability for 60 seconds. The other one, Celestial Intercession. This is our shield. It's not as powerful as, say, a Sage's shields or Scholar's shields. It's a decent one, but it's not overly powerful. And we get 2 charges of it, which is nice. It also heals them a little bit, and it puts a barrier on them. So, it's a nice little ability. I use this on the tanks a lot, and myself sometimes. So, basically, just it's a small heal and a shield. It's nice. It's not as powerful as Sages or Scholars, which is why we're not a shield healer. We are a pure healer. We only have 2 shields. That's it. So, the next ability is Lightspeed. Pretty much what it does is that you pop this, all of your heals are instant casts. All you gotta do is just wait for the global timer. It's great when you're in a pinch, and you really need to get some heals out fast. I use it whenever the tank's getting low in dungeons. I use it when I know that there's a bait mechanic, like in one of the trials. There's a stat marker, and you have to stay in that, and it'll keep going and going and going and going. And you have to pump out heals as quickly as possible, because every second, AoE damage, AoE damage, AoE damage. You need Lightspeed. I always save Lightspeed for that in those cases. The next one is Horoscope. Another one of those. You set it, you pop either Aspected Helios or Helios, and it'll pop the effect. Whenever you use, I try and just pair it with Aspected Helios. I'll use this, and boom, 30 seconds. Primed to resealing the effects of Horoscope. And you can use this when you're in a pinch. So I pop this, say, before a stat marker or an AoE damage is coming. It happens. A little bit of healing. It's nice. And for what it is, for 60 seconds, it's not bad. The next one we have is Neutral Set. This pretty much combines not only your diurnal set and your nocturnal set. For a while, Astros were both. You could either be a pure healer or a shield healer, but you weren't going to be as powerful as a Scholar at the time, and especially now, Sage. But we don't have that anymore. We don't have shield and regen that we can choose from. We're not that kind of healer anymore. We're not that in-between healer. Like, not as good as White Mage, but not as good as Scholar, but we had it. We had our moments. But now, I feel like we're on par with White Mage, or in my opinion, sometimes better. And Neutral Set, not only does it, when you use Aspected Helios or Aspected Benefit, it applies not only a regen, but a shield. And it's a really nice shield. And it can help when you're in a bind with a stat mechanic or an AoE ability coming up. Use Neutral Set. Not only does it prepare you for a stat mechanic, it can prepare you for a really big damage coming in during an in-between phase in a trial boss or a raid boss. That's when you can use Aspect of Helios or Neutral Set to pop Aspect of Helios to apply a shield and be prepared and take more damage, or take less damage from that mechanic. I like it. It's nice. It also increases your healing magic potency as well, which is great. Overall, great ability. Use it when you need it. And then we have Collective Unconscious. Pretty much what it does, it's a barrier that you create. You have to stand still. The moment you move, that is when it ends. But the effect does stay on for a little while. It also creates Wheel of Fortune, which is regenerating your HP over time. And it also reduces the damage taken for anybody in the circle. And then once you move, that goes away. But the regen does stay. But you have to stand still for people have reduced damage. I don't really use this in dungeons. Very rarely do I use this in dungeons. This is more of a raid and trial setting. So when there's an in-between phase and a phase where the boss, say, goes away and comes back and there's a big mechanic coming, that is when I would use Collective Unconscious. It's just a little niche thing mainly for trials and raids. Mainly. I don't really use this ever in dungeons. And then, for our very last ability, we have Sinistry. Pretty much what you do is when you put this on, say, a tank or another DPS, and they're taking a lot of damage. Not only will you be healing them more for what you're already doing, but when you're healing other people, it also heals them. And I like to use this ability when I know the tanks are in a humongous bind. You do not have to use this all the time. It's a 120-second recast. You do not have to use this all the time. I always say to people, I've seen Astros do this, where they'll use these abilities when it's not really needed. Just because it's off cooldown doesn't mean you have to use it. There are times where I go through entire dungeons, I haven't had to use Sinistry but once, or none at all, and that's okay. You don't have to use your entire kit all the time. When it's off cooldown, I need to use this. No. Use this when the situation that you deem fits appropriately. And as a general rule for all of the healers, you always want to be casting. You never just want to sit there and do nothing. You always want to be doing something. Otherwise, you're just letting yourself go to waste. If there's no mechanics coming, DPS. If the boss is in a burn mode, DPS. If you can weave in DPS during trash bombs or even during boss fights in dungeons, do it. You are not just a pure based healer, but do not be on the other side of the spectrum where all you're doing is DPSing and you're letting people die. That's not how it works either. You have to stop and heal, and you also, if you're not healing, DPS. Don't overheal, don't underheal. You want to be in that sweet medium. And I've always either seen healers on one drastic end or the other drastic end. You want to be in the happy medium. And that's also does with your abilities. You don't have to use all of your abilities on cooldown. It's part of your kit. It's there if you need it. There are times where I go through an entire dungeon, I never once pop neutral set. I go through an entire dungeon, I barely ever use Collective Unconscious. But it's there. It's there for specific reasons and specific situations. And you have to deem that as a healer, and this goes with all the classes as healers, you have to deem that necessary when you feel like it's necessary. This is your kit. Use it how you see fit. That's how I play it, and I think that's how most healers play it. Don't just use things off of cooldown because they're off of cooldown, especially when they're not needed. I have seen healers do that. I've seen Astros do it. You don't absolutely have to use it. Yes, it's a shiny button and has cool things. But when you use it and you don't need it, and then when you need it, you don't have it. That's why I always say, this kit is there for when, and these abilities are there for when you need it. Don't be afraid to use it, but don't use it all the time. You don't absolutely need to use Sinistry every fight. I barely do. That's my advice to any healers coming into this. But now, let's see how these abilities play in a dungeon setting. I've taught your ear off, I've explained to you pretty much what our kit does. Let's see it in action. And what better way to do it than with an expert instant roulette queue in a level 90 dungeon. Now you may hear some robot-y voices. I have Catbot. And it talks to me, and it helps remind me of what the hell I'm doing. Oh, I thought he was the tank for a minute. But now we're in Smileton. And last time I did this on a recording tape, I failed completely, but I'm a lot more alert this time. Where are these doors going? The bloppers stuff, they're great. I'm gonna use my Arcana, have this pulled and ready to go whenever I need it. This time it was a heal, so I'm gonna put my Earthly Star in case I need it. You never know. And we do have a ranged and a melee DPS. Now I have this one. I don't really. Oh, I got something worse. I probably should have just used it. But that's okay. Because in the end, it's still a benefit, and that's all that matters. I'm still getting used to my macros. Can I reset my macros? Again! I reset my keybinds, not my macros, my keybinds. There she goes. I am waiting until she is done to give her benefit. She provoked, which is fine. I'm not really too worried about her about that one right now. Now let's see what I did. Alright, not too shabby. I pop my Astro in, and I'm gonna start DPSing because she doesn't need anything right now, and I have my star ready to go in case she needs it, which she does. Well, she did, and then she used an ability, which is fine, and that's gonna happen. Then wait for that to go off for me to use that, and get some gravities in. Now he has that off, pop that, and back to gravity. And this is what it does. This warrior doesn't really need me right now. And now she does. The trash mobs in this place can get pretty wild, but the first ones are not that bad. And now, what I do as an opener, I always try and give each DPS. This is fine, because then I have my this.
Get hit
and
by
then
either color.
This is both blues. Okay, I gotta make sure I remember. And now I'm gonna start DPSing. Now I need to get the angry base. So
Get hit by either color.
By this one, because it's the angry base. Yay, I did it! Woo! I did it!
Knockback, one row.
Oh god, why did it tell me? Oh god. Now the reason why I haven't popped my Earthly Star is because this place does, this specific boss does not do all that much damage. Now I'm gonna do that. Oopsies, didn't do that. Spire, go to you. Moon, no. Ah, fine.
Knockback by either color. 1 row.
I really hope. Oh god, maybe I should have stayed in this one. Okay, I'm okay. I'm still learning the dungeons, so I'm not specifically perfect at them. I need the angry face. I need the angry face.
Get hit by either color.
I need the angry face, so I'm gonna get hit by... Wait, that one. Angry face!
Get hit by either color. 1 row.
Okay, this is fine. Oh crap. Well, I guess I didn't do it right. No, that's okay.
Tank Buster on AK's Haya.
I didn't die. That's all I care about. I did not mean to pop. I'm still learning my
AOE.
mouse buttons. So it happens. But this is fine too. I don't know if we're gonna get to this AOE, but fine. I'm actually done gearing up my Astro besides on Tombs, so I don't even need any of these accessories. But that boss in Spalaton is never really all that bad. Now, see, I'm gonna try and hope for the best. I get 2 sides. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, this 2-side Astrogen is okay in itself. It's not the greatest, but it's better than getting 3 of a kind and only just getting MP regeneration. That feels horrible. I don't like that feeling. Give him, and I'm just gonna start grabbing because I have my star down. So if she needs it, I will pop it when I need it. Right now, she's doing the warrior's doing a great job. Now she needs it. And then if it doesn't heal her all the way, I will use benefit. I didn't realize we were done with all the mobs, so I just popped Astrogen. But if I have Astrogen, I know we're about to pull another mob. I usually save it when the mob we get done pulling. So I might have wasted this Astrogen, but it's only on mobs. Not too beat up about it. And it wasn't the Druid one anyway. It was kind of like the meh one. Back to the melee. Pop this, put my star down. And now I can start DPSing. Pull my crown. What are the other crowns? Alright. So I have basically another assurance. I'll use it now. Because she needs it a little bit. And the stars that you popped, she dumped some for somewhere. And that'll happen sometimes. You'll think she's gonna need it, and then they use a regeneration ability and it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should have saved it. It's gonna happen. Every tank plays differently. Don't ever assume every tank knows exactly what they're doing. This one just happens to know exactly what she's doing, how to manage her regen abilities. Not every tank is going to understand that. And plus, not every tank plays like a warrior. Warrior, Dark Knight, Paladin, and Gunbreaker are 4 completely different tanks. And each player will play them differently. Some will know exactly what they're doing, and some will don't. And you can't just assume that. You have to pop your resources when you feel like you need to.
AOE.
I'm gonna redraw that one. Hope for the best. Cool, got it. Gonna use that. And I'm gonna put my star down. I am still learning this character, this boss. So I am not perfect at this boss. I kind of got the gist of her, but not completely. Okay. Crowns. That up. Alright, let's see if we can get lucky. Nope. And that'll happen. That will happen. Oh man, I keep popping light speed. I'm dead. Key bindings. Key bindings again. This boss really doesn't do all that much damage, in all honesty. Oh, my minor arcana. Ooh, I don't know the word crowns. Cool. So right here, I'm barely doing any healing, and why? Because in all honesty, we're not taking that much damage, and it happens. You're gonna have those bosses where they just do not deal that much damage. So you can spend most of your time DPSing and just spot healing the tank. As long as everyone's at near full or full, that's gonna happen. These bosses and some of these dungeons do not do much damage. Especially if everyone knows what they're doing. Barely had to heal. I DPS most of that fight. And that'll happen. And there's gonna be times where in those boss fights where people might mess up and you have to do more healing. It just is gonna depend between each group. And this time, I didn't have to heal that much in that boss. It doesn't do much damage. So I didn't use barely any of my resources. And that's okay. You're not going to always have to use your abilities. All of them, at least. There's gonna be bosses where you don't have to. And that's okay. And you're not a bad healer if you didn't use all of your abilities. You're just not. As long as you didn't need to, and that's how it feels, you don't have to do that. As long as you're using your draw and spot healing when you need to, and you can DPS freely, then that's fine. But don't just stand there and do nothing. That's the whole point. Don't just stand there and do nothing. DPS. You have DPS abilities, but don't overdo it. She's gonna keep going. Okay, not bad. It's another sign, that's all that matters. Alright, I have completed the crowns. And popping this. And now, I'm going to probably save my Astrodin for the start of this next boss. That is going to be the first thing I'm going to pop. My desired opener is to always give one card to each DPS and then pop divination. That is my desired and like my goal to my openers in dungeons, especially in raids. That's definitely what I do. But especially in dungeons, that is my like go-to opener. I'm sure there's another optimized opener for Astros, but this is just how I do it. I'm not always the most optimal, optimal opener for Astros in the world, but I at least try my best. I'm gonna pop Astrodin. I'm gonna give this one to that DPS. I'm gonna try and redraw. That's fine. I thought I could maybe get one specifically for the range, but I couldn't, and that's okay. It happens. It still benefits him, and it's still gonna
Tank
help.
Buster on AK's Haya.
I'm gonna use this on her to mitigate some damage. Now this one also doesn't do that much AoE damage. I'm not gonna use my star right now. Because overall, this fight doesn't do much AoE damage. As long as the people are going where they're supposed to, does not do much damage in terms of AoE abilities. I have my Lady of the Crowns ready to go if I need it. A bit close there. Oh. Keybinds.
Left.
Now, say you don't like your what you got for your crown card. You can flip Minor Arcana again and see what you get. I got another Lady of the Crown, so it is what it is. And that happens. It's a 50-50 shot. It's RNG. This class is very RNG based in terms of your cards.
Stack on dinosaur.
Now this is where I'm going to do this because neutral set, I have a staff mechanic. I'm going to use that and look at how much I just healed in 2 spells. Insane.
Right.
Oh boy. Uh-oh. Thank you, Pooh. Oh no, he's okay. Oh god. Oh god. I messed up. Ooh, alright. I'm gonna hold this for a minute. Just put that on the
Spread.
on the melee. Oh, hello. Hi. And then this is off cooldown. I use it again.
Tank Buster on AK's Haya.
Oh, damn it. I did not mean to use light speed again.
Right.
And then this way.
Right.
And there we go. And that is how it varies between every dungeon, but that is primarily how I heal in a dungeon. And this group did phenomenal. Barely took any damage, we barely messed up on mechanics, but again, that's not always going to be the case. You may get groups where they take a shit ton more damage. A group full of new people that may not know what the mechanics are. And it happens, and you just have to make sure you accommodate and pay attention to how your group is doing in your dungeon or your trial. With trials, you have a backup healer, so it just depends. But that is how I heal as an Astro in a dungeon setting. And down the line, I do want to upload how I heal in a raid, maybe Savage raiding, or extreme trials, in a much more harder content with another healer. How I balance that. But like you saw in that dungeon, I barely had to use any of my major cooldowns. Why? Because the boss wasn't really doing that much damage. I could just heal through with normal abilities. Or we just weren't taking much damage. I just spent half the time DPSing. And it happens. Smileton is one of those dungeons where, besides the first boss, the other ones don't do that much damage. And that's okay. You are not required to use all of your kit all of the time. And that's the whole point. Just do not sit there doing nothing. Because that's what a lot of healers do in this game. Because that's how you did in WoW, right? But that's not the case. Heal, do damage. Pick one of the two. Do not just stand there and leave it empty casting. It's not good for when you're trying to push harder content. You got to get that mindset out of your head if your goal is to be going into endgame content. If you're more of just a beginner and just doing this to have some fun, I would still recommend you get out of that mindset regardless, because you can help kill the boss faster. Just because we're not a DPS and we do maybe 10% of the boss's health or less, doesn't mean we're not contributing something. You could be that difference between a wipe or a kill. And that's my mindset when I go into as a healer. But overall, my feelings of the Astro class compared to the other classes and how it's been changed since its first iteration, I think that this is the best iteration that we have seen Astro, and the strongest we have seen Astro since Heavensward, since it was released. And even in Heavensward, it never really felt up to par with White Mage and Scholar. For 3 whole expansions, the major healer combination for at least Extreme Trials and for raids for Savage content was a White Mage and Scholar. That's all it really was. Sometimes you'll see an Astro thrown in there with a Scholar, but you would never see a White Mage and a Scholar. Or a White Mage and Astro. You never see it because we're nowhere near shield heavy as Scholar is. So I think when they put the Astro as a pure healer, that was the best thing that they could do. I hated Diurnal State. It just didn't feel right whenever I was playing it. It just never felt like I was doing enough compared to Scholar. Like, we only had 3 shields. Aspected Helios and Aspected Benefit. That's not really much of a shield healer. And I'm glad when they made the change that they announced pure and shield healers. I'm glad they added that because we needed that difference. You cannot have a healing character or healing class that can play both because you're never gonna be as strong as the other one in that same category. Whenever we were a pure healer in Diurnal set, we were never as strong as a White Mage. Same thing when we were in Nocturnal set. We were never as strong as a Scholar, especially now with Sage. But even with the changes to the card system throughout the time, when people were usually saying how when we changed it to where all of our cards gave flat damage, people were saying that's boring and that's just too bland. But like, in reality, most astrologians were fishing for that balance card. You're fishing for that DPS card. Why? Because you could enhance it. For a while, we had cards where we could enhance a certain card. Why would I want to enhance a card that just does against crit or against spell speed or skill speed? Why would I want that when I can enhance damage by up to sometimes 10%? That is what we did most of the time. When I was playing Astrologian in Stormblood, whenever I had the enhanced a card, or when I can enhance a card, I would fish until I would get a balance card. That's what I did. And when they changed it to where all cards did flat DPS increase, I was quite happy about it. I was like, finally. Because so many times I would get the most useless cards. The mana one was fine. I would have preferred if they kept the that one. But I would always get the Spire. Half the time nobody needed TP when we still had TP gauge. I would get the Bowl card when I didn't necessarily need the Bowl card for when a tank was about to take a humongous amount of damage. I would get the Bowl card and I wouldn't need it and I would throw it away. Sometimes I would get the skill speed one, which was nice for certain classes, not all of them. Whenever you're playing in a raid setting with a summoner and a red mage, they don't need spell speed. Only a black mage really did. Useless. Crit. Everyone could use crit. So that one was okay when you had the spear. And then everyone was always fishing for a balance card, and so was I. But even now, when they changed it back to where they still give flat damage, but they give flat damage to certain classes. And I think that's good because now I'm not hyper focusing on one person with one class that is clearly doing the most damage. I can spread it out between a top melee class and a top range class and give them both cards and make them feel like they're doing and make them feel better. And then combine that with divination at the beginning when everyone's in their burst phase. It just feels really, really good that I'm not just benefiting one person. I can benefit 2 people and give them both equally if the cards are in the right plan for me, because sometimes they're not. I can give them both a ranged DPS and in melee DPS a card. And it just feels better. And they're both getting 6% DPS instead of just focusing on one DPS with one card. Now I can give it to 2 people. Overall, in my opinion, I even think Astro is better than White Mage. And I've started playing White Mage. I did start leveling it. And even with the changes they did make to White Mage, it just doesn't feel right to me. I liked White Mage when it was in its Stormblood iteration. And unless you were raising people or people were playing really, really badly when it came to mechanics, you barely went under 5,000 mana. And everything you did regen mana. And some people would say that that's broken. Right now, whenever I play White Mage with the lilies, it just feels like I'm losing mana more than ever. Even with the lilies. And I know you have the DPS and Blare more, and that's the whole point of it. Maybe I'm just playing White Mage wrong right now. Or maybe the abilities with Endwalker have changed it and made it better. I'm not really sure, but as of right now, when I'm recording this on December 16th in 6.0 patch, I feel like Astro is better than White Mage. And I feel like going into Savage Raiding, which comes out in a few weeks on January 4th, I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of people, and World First Raiders included, having a White Mage, or having a Astro Scholar combination instead of the classic, or Astro Sage combination than White Mage and Scholar, or Scholar and Astro, or White Mage and Sage, or White Mage and Scholar. I think we're going to be seeing more of a combination of Astro Sage going into Savage. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. Maybe the World First Raiders have figured something out with White Mage that I just haven't. But we're going to see. But I have been seeing a lot of people with Astro Sage. And I just think that Astro, best place it can be as of Endwalker 6.0. And I hope with future expansions and more abilities that we may get and more things that can add to our already awesome kit, I don't know how this class can be any better than what we got in Endwalker. I love it. I feel amazing when I play Astro. I have so many options, and I don't feel like I need to rely on lucid dreaming solely to restore mana. And I very rarely go below 5,000 mana and have to struggle and be like, fuck, I need to really conserve my mana and not heal as much so I can get my mana back. And that's how I want to play. That's how I want to play as a healer. I don't want to have to keep relying on lucid dreaming to be able to get full mana again, or at least somewhat mana. Even when I raid someone, I don't have to feel like I can just rely on lucid dreaming. I get mana back when I draw my cards. I get mana back from other abilities. It just feels so much better, and I truly think Astro is in the best spot it has been since Heaven's War. I think this is the best it's ever been, period. I don't think people have ever played Astro as much as they are playing now, and if you are new to Astro, I truly do hope that this guide helped you. I do plan on making more guides for Sage and White Mage and Scholar when I get to that point where I feel like I'm competent with it and I understand it the most. I will, of course, also be doing iteration if anything changes. If balance patch maybe changes some things, who knows? And also, I do want to continue with my Astro guides for a raid and trial setting, and extreme trial setting as well, and even alliance raids. I want to show you guys how I do that in those types of situations as well. And I do plan on coming back to this as well. So, if you liked my guide, definitely don't forget to like and comment If you have any other tips for other Astros, maybe things I missed that you might know, I would like to know as well. Anything you have for other Astro players, anybody who's new to this game who wants to pick up Astro, leave them in the comments below. Leave a like if you like this. If you didn't, you can leave a dislike. It doesn't really matter to me. And if you want to see more Final Fantasy XIV content, you should hit the subscribe button. I also do Final Fantasy XIV live streams on this channel, as well as, hopefully, Savage Pandemonium progress streams as well, and videos, for kill videos at least. I don't do raid guides. Hopefully, if everything goes too well and I get into a static, or maybe I'll form a static with some people, I will be streaming prog on this channel, as well as uploading kill videos. So, stick around for more Final Fantasy XIV content, more Final Fantasy XIV guides, and that is all. I hope you all enjoyed your stay in the Barracks, and I will see you all again very soon. Goodbye!